Hi, it's Lino from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Today is all about what happens if you live in an area or the part of the world where you can't get stamps or you can't afford stamps. Today's video, I'm going to show you how to make your own stamps for a fraction of the price of actual furniture stamps and create looks like this. So I know today is all about making your own stamps, but this is the piece that we're going to be putting the stamps on. It's a pine console table. It's got it's not a lot of things wrong with it, but not a lot of great things going for it either. I am going to repaint the legs with another red. I'm going to be using Annie Sloan's Emperor Silk to do the legs. Probably the front of the drawer as well. I don't think I like the two-tone thing. The top we're going to be working on, but this is the piece that we're going to be doing the stamps on. So now I'm going to get set up so that I can show you how to make your own stamps. So what inspired today? When people write to me, I try and take into consideration what they're saying. And we have somebody who follows us and is with you guys and is part of our channel membership group as well. And she lives in South Africa. Her name is Larga, and she really struggles to get just the things that we take for granted. So she was saying, kind of almost in desperation, what can I do? We don't have this, we don't have that. So I've pondered it for a while and I thought, right, well, there's lots of different kinds of printing you can do, but something that you can buy that you can keep in your armoury and use repeatedly is lino printing. Now, lino comes in two different kinds. You need to be buying the soft cut lino. You can use the hard cut lino, but it's really hard to work with. So the soft cut lino, it comes in A4 sheets. Now I've cut mine up, so I don't have an A4 sheet left. The back of it is kind of scratchy. It's got a slight texture to it. You can tell the back. That's the back. Now the front of this is very messy because I've obviously put paint on it, but the front of it is smooth. Can you see that? It's smooth. The back, scratchy. That's how you know you're cutting into this side. This stuff here is inexpensive. It is something that I think Larga hopefully you'll be able to get, but even, you know, like if for other people who say, I'd love to be able to do what you do, but I can't afford the stamps, this is another way to do it. Or I can't get that, or it's just not the time to be able to outlay for things like this. And this is something I've done before. So you need your sheet of lino. Now, I will do a kind of at the very end of this, I'll find out the exact cost. I know it's not very much, but with this, you also need a lino cutting tool. They come in a little box and they come with lots of different blades. Mine's have both got exactly the same blade on it for some reason. I don't know, I think this would be a bit narrower. What you do is you just unscrew this to change the blade. You take this out, you fit this back in. There's a little kind of, can you see there's a little hole in there? You just, trying to do it facing the camera. You fit that in there and you screw your tool together. What it does is, and I'll show you on a spare piece, is this is the soft side. It cuts your lino. Can you see this? It cuts it. The reason why I have this piece is because save it. You don't know, you might want to make a small stamp. So how do we get from this to stamps? Now, first of all, what I'll say is this process, you're not going to get something that's like an IOD or a redesign by Prima stamp. They're made in a factory in China. You're not going to get something that looks like that. You're not going to get the same effect either. But if you think of William Morris, he was a wooden block printer. He's very famous. William Morris prints. If you think of things like this, if you think of old school printing, you're going to get a printed design. You're going to, depending on how good you get with your lino and your lino tools, you can do some amazing things. I am not the best person. My daughter is amazing. My daughter went to university and she is a well, she did a textile degree, so she designed fabric, and she did a lot of lino cutting, a lot of different printing, and you get really good with your tool the more you go on. Now, design for today. I bought this piece, it had red legs, and I thought, right, okay, I don't know why in my mind, it's just the way my mind works. I thought, I'm keeping those legs red, I like them. It reminded me somehow of a sort of kind of, this is strange, but you always ask my processes, something to do with toadstools. So I thought, I know, I'll help Lag out by showing how to do stamps, and I'll do this as sort of, so bear with me on this. I'm thinking of doing a toile design with my own stamps with toadstools. But that wasn't my first thought. You have to have a drawing. You have to, what I'm about to show you, no judgment here, is doodles. So you just have to bear with me. They're doodles, and that's how I kind of work it out. But I started by doing something like, I'll draw a peony flower. How you do it is so you sketch first. So do your sort of rough sketch. And once you've got your rough sketch, you start to narrow down with a pencil your lines or a pen. Yeah, until you get, you know, where you need to be. I then thought, peonies, am I really wanting this on here? I could use a peony stamp, I have it. This is not, I wanted to make a stamp that I can use again in the future. So I stopped doing that and went back to my toadstool. So I kind of started with something like this. This has evolved. I also did thistles and a few other different things. So this was kind of what I imagined, but I realised this was going to come out quite crude. So I kind of narrowed it. I'll put this on a white background so you can see. I narrowed it down to something like this. Why have I done it on Mylar? It's just so I can move it about and I can understand my design. So I kind of went from a doodle, got to here. So this is what I got to. So I have already, don't worry, you're going to see me cutting it out in a minute. I've already done a toadstool and I've done a flower. I've made them smaller. I've also made the ground, because can you see on the initial design, it's got the sort of soil, the grass, whatever you want to call it, the moss down the bottom. When you put these together, this will go on first, because then you will have your ground, then your toadstool, then your flowers. So how do you do it? So at this time round, I'm just gonna kind of keep to looking at my original concept, because I want something like these long leaves, and you can draw it in pencil, put it down on here, and you can try and transpose it. But sometimes I think if you've got a sort of rough idea of where you're going, just go with it like that. So I want, first of all, I want two nice big long leaves, and I'm just going to do them in pen. I'll only do one on camera to save this being a forever and a day project. If you were doing a picture and you wanted to do Christmas cards, for example, you would just make your whole picture, frame it, do your whole thing, carve it out and use it as one. But because I want to make mine into stamps, I need my external line. So probably the best way, I would start with this. Now, I am no expert at this, and my daughter will probably say that's not how you do it, but this is how I do it. So you can run with it and tell me, you know, the things you try if you go ahead with this. And I'm just hoping Lager can get Lino. So I've cut out my leaf here. I've got sharp scissors for cutting it out. You can cut it out with a craft knife if you want, but I'm saving myself a whole load of heartache. These are pretty similar. One is, can you see one slightly more in a V than the other? I've got
it's slightly different perspective.
I'm trying to think.
Yes.
Well, if I do this, maybe that might help. Does that help?
Yeah.
So this is a wider V and this is a smaller V. So where you want thicker, wider lines, you'd use something like this. But there's also cutting blades. There's all different kinds of blades. These are the blades that I like to use, but they're all different blades in your little box. And I think these are about £4 or £5, these little lino tools. And I've had these for years. So I've cut out my leaf. Let's just kind of get my sort of idea going here. With these ones, the big ones, I have carved it into it so it prints like a carving. With this one, I want to actually remove sections. So let's do this like it was a leaf first. So if I was carving it, I'd go along my lines. Yeah, but I'm not going to do that with this one. With this one, I'm going to take out the surplus, and you just don't go to that edge because that's the edge you need to keep to print with. And you go round it, and you just get rid of all of your excess. Now, I haven't tried or tested any of my stamps yet, so when we get to testing, I'll show you how to do that. What are you laughing at?
I haven't tried it yet.
No, I haven't. I wanted them to see me stamping this with me.
Yeah.
I just thought then, because then I can show you, because sometimes when you do it, there's things that are not quite right, and I just want to be able to show you, you know, or when they print out, you'll go, oh, that's a little bit high, I need to go back, and when you use it, put paint or ink on it, you'll see what isn't correct about it. So basically, it's not hard to do. You just have to take your time and make sure you don't cut things out that aren't supposed to be, you know, they need them. So I'm just taking all the bits from the inside of the veins in my leaves like this, and I'll do this one here. It can be quite therapeutic. You can sit and watch telly, put it on a tray so you don't, because all these little bits go everywhere as you're doing it, and you just do this. How you use your tool determines lots of different things. If you wanted, for example, to do things like spots or these kind of things, I just want to tidy this little edge up here. I think this one is. You can already kind of see what's going to happen here. The paint is going to go on the smooth parts, and these parts here, yeah, are not going to have any paint on them, or that is the theory. It can get a little bit boring, so I'm not going to labour on it too much, but you just cut it out like this. I'd hope to be a wee bit quicker. That's why I did the other ones in advance, because I thought this could be a very boring, I know, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. Right, so I'm just going to show you how to do like circles. If you just twirl your thing around like that, you can cut out circles and use your little tool to pick it out. That'll get you circles. You can do cross hatching just by doing this, you know, your normal cross hatch pattern. When you do something like this, you can keep coming back. You can make wider lines, thicker lines. We won't know if this is going to print nicely until we've had our first test run, and I would suggest you test run them on paper. Don't start straight on your furniture. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to cut the sleeve off. I'm also going to do, because I'm trying to do a toile here, I'm going to try and do, because when I put this together, it should hopefully make something that I'm quite happy with. I think I'm going to do like a couple of just blades of grass. Yeah, and that will be my scene. And what we'll do when we do the toile is we'll do it at all different angles, thinking of positive and negative spaces across the table when we get to that. But I'll cut out my leaf, I'll paint my legs red, and then we'll come back. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly sand this table. It's not been waxed or anything, it's just been varnished, but it's not that nice. And to be honest with you, on the top I'm going to do, which is an unusual thing for me, but I'm going to do a sort of light cream, more of a wash than a thick paint job, because we're going to stamp it all first. Then we're going to come in with a sort of grungy, dirty, the background colour of our toile. And then at the very end, we can come back with any pens or paint to just make our design pop. That is the plan. So paint the legs, finish the leaf, do some grass, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've finished doing I didn't do a blade of grass. What I did was I did a sort of branch and an oversized berry. These are all ready. These are our components for stamping. Before we stamp, I just need to do a wash on the table. I painted the legs red. They've had 2 coats of Annie Sloan's Emperor Silk, and it's looking way better. I know it's still red, but it's looking way better than it was. In here, I have some Annie Sloan's Versailles, which is a yellowy beigey cream. and I'm adding a bit of water because I want to make this a wash. And literally all I'm going to do is I'm going to wash this onto the table. I can already tell that's maybe a little bit thick. Doesn't really matter too much at this stage what your sort of wash is like, because as I said, this wash isn't going to cover where I've sanded some of the areas where I might have sanded it anyway. It's just to kind of like put a base coat down behind our stamps. So just paint it on, and when you've painted the whole thing, wipe it back. If you think it's not quite coloured enough, do it again, and you just go across the whole table doing this. I don't want to come too far over because I don't want it dribbling down the edges onto my red. And this is just going to kind of give us a bit of a base to work our stamps on. So I'm going to get on. I'm going to wash this. I'll probably do it twice because just to kind of cover some of the anomalies and some of the knots in the wood. And then we'll be ready for stamping. Okay, so I've limed the table. It's darker than limed. I ended up giving it 3 light coats. So that should be enough to give tooth to these. Here's hoping. Now, I have on the mix mat, here are the colours: Hornflower, forgotten, Paprika, Empress Silk, Amsterdam Green and French Linen, and you'd get back to that at the end. Right, this is the moment of truth where you test it all out and see whether it works or not. I just used the doodle paper. I'm just going to use the doodle paper I had before. So I want to get it in order as well to have an idea of what it's going to look like. So let's go. Stamping with paint and lino. You do get lino print and ink, but you don't need that for furniture. Sorry, I've kind of overloaded my roller. So this will represent the sort of soil, and I can't make my mind up what I'm going to. I think I'm going to be quite cheeky and pop a little bit of green in that as well. Make it look a little bit mossy. Right, okay, so we want this about here. So I'm just going to test them out one by one, and if there's anything I have to recut or fix, I already know there's a little bit of my leaf here that isn't going to print right, but I'm prepared to run with that. So that's my ground. Now, inking this one up is going to be slightly tricky, only because I want the top of the toadstool to be red. I'm going quite heavy with the ink. And you have to move quite fast because if you're using chalk paint, you have to move quite fast. I'm going to go around here like that. I'm going to use the same roller here to do it in here. You could use makeup sponges, or I've managed to get green on that. This is just the test, so we're okay. We're not panicking yet. In fact, sponges may be the answer to get into doing this one the way I'd like it to be. But let's see what it comes out like first. I can see something here I'm not happy with. You really want to bring this right down to the edge. Right, okay, so this next, and I'm putting it onto my soil at an angle. It may be that maybe it might have looked, I might have had more control of the ink, but I think maybe sponges is going to be the way to go. But this is our test, more to test our stamp than our colours, so I'm not too worried. So that's that part done. So I don't need to turn it around, Martin, do I? They have it the right way up.
Well, no, this is upside down for them at the moment.
Oh.
But they get the gist.
Right, so we've got our soil, we've got our toadstool done. I quite like that bit of green in there. I think it gives it like a little bit like I tried to be fancy when I didn't really. Now, the paprika is the new Annie Sloan colour. It's a really nice, well, this is the sort of colour it is. So
Not all this stuff. So I can just focus on it.
it's a nice colour. So I'm doing my flower. Oh, I think I maybe overloaded my flower a little bit. My flower might not print too much. I think I just put the flower on next. What I did was I put numbers on the back of each one just so that I would know the sequence. You probably won't need to do that, but my brain was like, flower. Leaf, I think, was next. I'm trying to work out which roller to use next. I think this might be a messy process. And leaf's coming on, and I'm going to do the leaf up in there. And now branch and then berries. So branch, I'm probably going to do it in the brown. I'm just running with the amount of rollers I've got going on here. Can you not see? Sorry.
Oh, that's right. I was seeing how many rollers you had there.
I've got another one. I've got more. I've got more sitting on the floor. I'm putting my branch on here like this. I think this kind of printing gives a completely unique look. There is no look. You can spot lino printing a mile away. I always think you can see what it is. Now, if I was a patient woman, which we all know I'm not, I would be letting this dry before I put my berries on, but no, I'm not going to do that. So the last thing to go on will be my berries. And I'm just going to, I don't need to do the whole, all of the berries right now. I will when it comes to the table. I think I can see that this is going to make a nice berry. And when I come back later on to fix the detail, what I intend to do is put a stalk in there where my flower is. And I'll probably paint in here a different colour. But as a whole,
it's pretty damn good.
I know that Larga asked me to do flowers. I did try to kind of stick to the flowery theme, and there is a little flower in it, Larga, but all I'm trying to say is you don't have to be stuck to design furniture. You don't have to have tons of money. You just need to start creating and see what you can come up with. I'll fix all these little bits, but at least it will all be the same size and uniform, and that's what pattern is all about, same size and uniform. It might be slightly off because I've had to put that pattern together, but so it's on to the Neil McCoy now. I'm not waiting for anyone. So my door is facing towards me, so I know I'm going the right way. That might start. Right, let's do one on the wood now. Sorry for the repetition, but there was nothing I needed to fix in any of that, and sometimes the fixes are the bits that take the longest time. So my numbers, back to my soil first, which is the brown. I'm not going to put the green in that this time, but I'm going to try and put the green back up in the toadstool. Now, positive, negative spaces, where are we going? Well, I think I'm going to start one slightly off centre here, and we'll see how it goes. I can take the smaller elements and make like it is toile and do smaller elements in between, but let's get the big ones on first. So I'm going to start pretty much here. I maybe should have put a bit more paint on since it's going on wood, but let's just see how we go. Right now, toadstool time. Right. Make sure that you've got it all painted up. Paint on there. I'm just making doubly sure now. Now is the time to work quite fast. Making everything quite sludgy this time round. You notice I didn't decide to go with makeup sponges. I'm just going rogue. This, I want to come back in with my chocolatey brown, which has got a little bit grey now. And I'm going to put this in here. I don't know if that's going in quite. I might really shadow. Oh, see, now I'm going. I'm just going to use my finger here and just try and put a little bit of green back in because I liked it. Right, okay, so we do have to be reasonably precise on this from now on. You can do all sorts of things. You could do a lot of folk arty stamping. My daughter's done a lot of like ravens and owls, and but as I showed you, that big peony that I drew out, just a simple sketch drawing, and then simplify it with a black line round your sketch. Martin, you're coming round like there's going to be a great big reveal. What if it's terrible?
It will be. All the confidence.
Right. There we go. Now, my numbers have got confused. What was that? It was the flower next.
It's super cool. It's got like a, you know, it's like those books. It's like a sketch, you know.
Etching.
Yeah. Etchings, yeah.
An etching. I'm just making sure.
Just realised they can't hear me. I haven't got a mic on.
Oh, I'm sorry. We just realised Martin's not wearing a mic, and he's been talking away to you all, but
sorry, I'll fix that.
He's very happy with my toadstool. So I'm just going back through my numbers again. This is number 3. My leaf is number 4. 3. My leaf is number 4. Just so that I keep it all correct, hopefully. Just like my prototype that I did on the lined paper there, I'm just keeping it the same.
There you go. I've got a mic now. I was just saying, it's way cool, isn't it? It's like etchings.
Yes, yes.
You know, like you see in old books and things.
I think as well, if you really get into this, you'd never need to buy a stamp again because you could cut any stamp you wanted.
Do any design
and I used to do that. So, you know, the things I've done, you know, because, well, to save money. I've got shaky hands. I'm like, ooh, I did a bit of shifting there, but I don't feel guilty. It's my own stamp. I can shift as much as I like. Right, there we go. Could have done with a little bit more ink in there, but this is what I mean. You're going to get slight imperfections. The thing is, when you go to paint little bits in, you have to paint them in with the same sort of, if not, it'll look like you painted in, and we'll get to that. My little branch. And now on last is my berry.
Just want to get in a little bit closer on this.
Okay. We can fix things like this and put a stem on here.
It's cool.
Right, berry time. And they're really, like, it could be quite addictive. So, you know, I don't know if anybody's ever done toadstool toile. Didn't really investigate it. I mean, maybe I should have looked into that before I started, but I don't see why not. Don't see any reason. Now, you can get quite advanced with this, and you can put wooden blocks in the back of these. I've got some over in the studio that are quite good stamps that I've cut, but I haven't got wooden blocks on them. Or did put wooden blocks on something?
Some of them have got wooden blocks on them, yeah.
But you can, you know, glue it, get hot glue this on the back of a wooden block, and then you don't have to do what I'm doing right now. But do you know what? I like that so much. I'm just doing another berry because I can. Now, I think I really want to go over this leaf again, but I'm just going to leave it alone because I'm scared that I'll make a mess of it. Right. Okay, berries, check. So this here is going to be, I just want to talk you through it, recreated probably here, half of it coming off of the table down here, and maybe some of it going off up there. Spaced out, thinking of positive, negative spaces. Anywhere where there's large spaces between it, I think I might do the little orange flower and maybe a bit of maybe the little orange flower and the berry. I'll put the flower on top of the top of the berry branch and we'll do something like that. And this is pretty much, this is it. I mean, I'm going to go across and do all the big work first, like you've just seen me do it. And Martin threw me because he started with the camera. What I was going to say, I'm going to go do all the big pieces first. And then once I've done all that, because that way you'll get an idea of context and positive, negative spaces. When I say positive, negative spaces, here's one big set here. If you look at actual toile or anything with a repeat pattern, you will see the next one isn't here. It has to be spaced out in a way that makes sense. How can you do that? You know the initial drawing that I did with all of it together before I separated it into its constituent parts? Cut round that to give you an idea of size, and then just kind of like give yourself a wee marker around the table with a bit of chalk so that you know that that's going to be spaced nicely. And then once I've done the big work, we'll come back and you'll see me trying to fit the small in between it. And then what we're going to do is we're kind of grungy. Are we going to grungy a bit? I might hold on there because I quite like it the way it is, but I was looking for more of a sort of aged toile look. And now that I'm so happy with the top, well, I've only done one, but I think we'll just go on and do something on that front drawer as well. I didn't paint the drawer because I thought I sometimes like things just to mingle in. I think the way they did it with the pine, it didn't work for me, but I'm thinking a sort of cream drawer with just an accent, not a hole stamped across it, just a little accent, a nod to the top kind of thing. So I'll get on and do this. I'll dirty more rollers and I'll come back and I'll show you all the look back. Okay, so I've put the I've put the pattern on, and I've kind of thought about all my positive and negative spaces. I didn't like this leaf when it was printed out, so what I've done is I painted it in, and I'm just using the same stamp over the top, kind of paint it, stamp it, paint it, or stamp it, paint, oh, it doesn't matter, you know what I mean, right? There you go. So that's what I'm doing with these leaves here. So I've got 2 more to do. I thought long and hard about having something smaller, and I think it's really got to be this flower, and I think I'm just going to do it in the paprika colour. So I'll just get my roller and get this rolled. You will need to wash them on occasions just to make sure that it's the same as any stamps. They get full of paint and then they don't stamp as well. So it's kind of a good idea to wash them. So I'm going to go now with this. I'll do one more. And I'm going to do this flower. I think I'll have it going this way here. And then I was thinking, will I go around it all? But I think I will go around it all, because if I had the foresight and just painted it 2 good coats of the cream and put it on, that would have been fine. But I don't like the knots and everything through it, because I was planning on grunging it up anyway. So I just have to stick to my plan.
Grunge.
And grunge.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't mean grunging it up. I just was looking for a more sort of vintagey sort of toile, kind of, I think you know what I'm talking about here. Now I don't like this big knot here, so I'm wondering whether I could just do, no, that's not going to work with the spacing. So this is all I'm doing now, just filling in that way, there, maybe down here, and then quickly dry it off, stamping these 2 green leaves, and then we'll come over with the colour that's going to go around it, which is, I've still got some of this watered down Versailles, so I was thinking of putting a little bit of a mustard in here. I think that might go quite nice with the red. I think it'll set off all the other colours quite nicely. So, and it's thickening up a bit anyway, so I think that's what I might do. And it says wasting paint because I really don't like doing that. Okay, so I'll just go and finish up doing these and these two leaves. Okay, so the table's dried overnight. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the blend in olive and around the edges. This won't mean anything if you're probably not from the UK, but when I'm thinking about this table, I'm thinking of sort of vintage Cath Kidston sort of style, sort of kind of fabric. So, but I want this to look a little bit more aged. There was a point in time yesterday where I thought maybe I should just kept it, you know, solid behind with the stamp on top, but I do want it to look like the old toile with the colours muted behind it, so I'm going forth. Now what have I got here? I've got the Versailles colour that was watered down yesterday and it's just been left overnight, so it has thickened up a bit, but it's still pretty runny. I'm going to use this as my blending colour. I've got a small, it looks to the human eye that it's ruined. It isn't. This is a great little blending blush. I love it. It gives nice detail, puts a bit of texture in. Here I have, this is not an Annie Sloan paint colour. Obviously, I only ever use Annie Sloan. This is an ochre, and this is actually an acrylic. I've got Hornflower, and I've got French linen. I'm a Versailles. I've got water here. This is what I've got. Now, starting with the watery Versailles, because you really need to kind of have paint down to make this work before you start adding colours, and just I would just work in small sections. The thing about making something look kind of aged means that you know, it doesn't all discolour at the same place, so you can, you know, work on that. The reason why I kind of like this brush is I always think it puts quite nice texture into things. I specifically trawled through many brushes to get here, and what I'm doing is I'm just mixing between the Hornflower and I'm doing a bit of stippling and a little bit of blending with the ochre and the brown, making it brown in some areas. I don't want it as brown as that, so let's move this along up here. And literally all I'm going to do is I'm going to work in sections around it all. I want to put a bit more yellow in here, some of the ochre, and I want to put a little bit more brown in here. And it's just going to take a little bit of time until you get what you're looking for. It's the same with any sort of blending. It's really your preference. If you've got this far and you've stamped it and you think, I'm just going to, you know, I'm leaving it as is, I'm not going to go around and do this part, then just skip this part and go on to my next parts when I get to them. But this is kind of like a tad boring for you. I'm bringing it right onto the front edge as well. I quite like it when it's a little bit dark around the actual, can you see this line here? It's a little bit dark around the actual like design, so you can put that naturally in and then just blend it out. And I'm just going in between everything and just working my way across the table. And if you want to know how this looks, I shall show you, because here's a section I did earlier. This is a section already done. I think probably what I'm going to do is, because this is dry now, is I'm probably going to come back in and add a little bit of the Versailles over the top of this, watered down. I need a bit more water, just to kind of blend it away a bit. I was going to play around with it, but since we're on camera, I'll just play while we're doing it and just kind of fussy around with it until I get exactly what I'm looking for. There's a little bit too much water there. And this is what my intentions are. So kind of playing around with it, putting it on, muting it back a bit until I get what I'm looking for. Some of it will be darker than others. But yeah, so I'm going to go on and I'm going to do this part next and get this to exactly where I think I would like it. See what I mean about this paintbrush? It gives really good sort of, because the bristles are kind of effectively quite ruined on it, it gives nice texture. It puts nice texture into the paint. And obviously as well, that gives the eye something else to look at. It's not solid and flat. It's not one colour. It's got texture. So I shall forge on doing the whole table and getting this to where I would like it to be. I think I might come back and add slightly a little bit more sometimes here and maybe here, and just blend these sections in with the ochre into the kind of centres of something, like it's aged and it's a bit yellow. But this is just going to take a little bit of playing around with until I get what I'm looking for. I think I know what I'm looking for in my head, so I just have to play around with it until I get to where I want to be. Okay? Okay, so this is how the blend looks, and I'm pleased with it. What I'm going to do now is I've done with all of the rest apart from this one here. I've got a 3M Posca pen, and this part is not necessary. If you don't have Posca pens, it's not the end of the world. I just want to kind of just make my stamps slightly bolder. I'm not pressing too hard. I don't want too thick a line. And I'm trying to do it continuously so that it's not kind of almost stilted, which is kind of tricky because there's quite a lot of texture where the stamp is. So something like that. I'm just going around there, and I'm just literally going around all of my design. And I think if Martin shows you maybe another one, then you'll get the idea of what I've actually done. I've not, when it came to the grounding, the bottom part, I slightly went off and under, like I'm doing here. I didn't go round the ground. I just did this to finish that part off. I don't have to do it on this one, but some of the flowers slightly lost definition, and that was because I wasn't washing them after every single imprint, and that is my fault. So I'm going to show you what I did with those in a minute. If it's not there, just pretend it is there and go around it anyway, like that. The next thing I did was I just took some green. I've only got a 5M in this dark green. So if you're wanting to have a thinner edge, don't press down like that. That'll make you a thick line. But if you hold your pen on an angle, you'll be able to do thinner lines. And all I've done is I've just put some suggestions of some grass there. I don't need to do it with here because this one printed perfectly. But if you see this one here, it didn't. I just got the cream and I just did some dots like this just to make sure that was okay. This one here didn't have a good, it was the angle I was printing on, so I've just put some white spots back in there. And apart from that, that's the top. Apart from the next thing, which I want to put a little bit of crackle on it, not a huge amount, but just a little part. Now, I know you shouldn't stamp on your furniture, but this is quite a big thing. I'm not going to go off the edge of it, so I'm not, as you can see, I'm not loading the whole stamp. I'm just kind of hit or miss. I might not have pressed hard enough to get a bit of a crackle going, but let's just kind of have a wee look with this. I just want a faint suggestion of a little bit of crazing in my paint. And I'm not using black for this. I'm using a dark grey, just so that it's not too in your face when it happens. I'm kind of trying to avoid, sorry Matt, I'm going very fast.
That's right.
I'm trying to
sort of show that it is working, yeah. Yeah,
I'm just, it's just a slight suggestion. This part again is not necessary. It isn't. On the edges, like that, just to kind of give it a little bit that it's crackled slightly. I'll try and find a bit where you can see it happening, Martin. So I'm gonna put it down here. Martin can follow me. I'm not doing what I would normally do with a stamp. I'm just kind of going like this with my nails, almost like kind of tickling over the top of it, and you'll get something like this. And this is just enough to give it that sort of old look. That was all I was trying to do, just kind of age it off a little bit more before I move on to the drawer. Now I'm going to get set up for the drawer right now, and we'll do the drawer. The drawer I'm not putting, because it's so narrow, I'm not putting the whole detail on. The drawer, I'm just going to put some berries on it, just some of the berries. So yeah, I think that's enough of the crackle. I'm sorry if you can hear our washing machine.
It's a Friday. The kids have all just returned home from school, and it's mission on for getting all their clothes washed and dried again for Monday.
Not that they don't
Not
have
that they don't have other ones,
spare
but,
clothes, but it's
they
just
tend to go-
we like to have everything washed on a Friday.
Yes, we do. We've got them well trained.
We have. They do their bedding on a Friday as well, so that kind of adds to the washing load.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So,
they literally come in from school and dump everything
right
to the washing machine.
In front of the washing machine. Don't even put it on. You know, they just dump it there. But at least that's better than some of my other children who didn't even bother. They just left it lying on the floor until they ran out of school clothes. Right. Okay. So that's enough of this for the top. I'm going to let this all settle down. For those that recently have said, I've not really had it, but I think it depends on your medium that their Posca pens are running. I have not had it with my normal French sheet tough top coat. I don't get it running. I don't know whether it's because I don't tend to seal straight away, but what I do is, which I maybe should have said before, is I run over with a heat tool just to kind of set it before I seal it. So if you are getting anything like you're going to seal your piece and it's running and you think it's the Posca pens that are doing it, try a heat tool over the top of it. But I always kind of let things kind of settle. So I'm just going to, because I've put ink on this and pen on it, time to let it settle. But I will before and we're going to be waxing this because there's lots of different colours in this. The legs are red. I really want to bring out the richness and I want it to feel silky. So that's a top tip for Posca pens, right? I'm actually maybe just going to cover up this tabletop and just do the drawer on here so that you can see what I'm doing. What have I done with the drawer so far? I quite often, I put a wet layer of paint on it and then put thick layers. I get my heat tool and I dry it fast. And I don't know whether Martin can catch the crackle. Can you see it? There is, yep. Promise me there is natural crackle along here.
Stop moving your finger and then it will focus. There you go. Yeah.
Things like this I've just rubbed back while I was doing it. So you can see it's lighter and darker. It's just to give it that aged look before I started. So I'm only going to be using the berries, which is just this and this. So I'm just going to make myself a little stamping pad. And I use these all the time. You can just wash them and use them again. The green part gives you a good place to hold on to. So I'm going to just dip in the dip in the brown. Now, this is incredibly dangerous. Do not do this at home, but I'm stamping on here. But I've got something down so that it doesn't. And this is just the same process as a roller, but it's just to save get dirty in all the rollers. Now, I only want maybe a branch. I don't want one on either side. I think that would look a little bit contrived. So I'll kind of do them up and down. Oh, I kind of move slightly there. And I'm just going to do the same thing. And then so the next one I'm going to do up the way. So maybe something like this. And just do them across the board like that. And if you do make your own stamps, you can go back to them at any point and just add them into your designs that you're making. You know, the good thing about it, you can cut whatever you want, whenever you want it, and you can use it again and again and again. I think this one here I will use again. I quite like the berry one and I quite like the flower. I mean, I like it all, but I think as well it'd be nice for like a card. I was making a card for someone with the toadstool on it. Put them all in a little Ziploc bag so you know that that's the constituent parts for that stamp. Right, so across here. And the same thing with my other little stamper in the red. And I don't need to sit this one down. I can just offload in here. And so I just didn't mean to do that. Did you hear the sharping take a bit?
Did. Came out all right.
Oh, thanks. And this is all I'm doing now. I'm just going to fix my drawer up. And then the same distress that has gone in between the blending the colours, the beige and the ochre, I'm just going to do it in between it all as well, just to tie the whole table together. Now I have to make sure that my top of my berry goes the right way on this one. So I'm going to get on and do this. I'm going to do the highlights in between. Now the little knob I'm going to paint red to match the legs, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I was thinking of putting some spots on it, but I think that looked too contrived and a little bit childish, so I'm just doing it plain red, and then we'll get to waxing. Okay, so I finished the drawer. I completed the blend in between my stamps. I've re-glued in the knob, and what I have done is a tiny little bit of distress. There's a tiny chip here, a little bit here. Now this isn't, quite often you see people and they get an electric sander and they attack the piece, they go around every single edge, but that's not really how things would probably wear. So you have to do a little bit of forensic. If somebody was bumping it, moving it, or continually leaning on it, where would it be? So majority of kind of wear and tear happens round about the handle. So you normally get chips on the handles, sometimes down here. If you look at old furniture, you can see how it wears. Sometimes you get things like, because this is raised out here and you're walking past, this can get chipped. These sort of edges, anything that sits out from the furniture here, and maybe a bit down here, but that is all you need. Maybe sometimes under here with people not opening the drawer right, I always like to have a little bit of distress, if it's this kind of distress, underneath my drawers. So I've waxed to here. Waxing, we've been through waxing a million times, but just in case you're new to this, what you do is you apply your wax with a soft brush. I think I was a bit liberal there actually. And then what you do is you work down the piece, massaging it in to where it is it's got to go. And then you take a soft lint-free cloth and remove all your excess until it's buttery smooth. You can, after 24 hours, come back and buff it and you'll get a high shine. I don't buff mine because I like things matte, but you can always feel the difference between a waxed piece and a top coat sealer. You can just tell, they feel completely different. I like waxing red, I don't know why. And normally I would probably come along with maybe and put some dark wax in here, under here to age it, down here and along here. But I'm not going to do this with this piece because I like it just quite crisp. I've done my little bit of distress and I think that's enough. Everywhere else has been waxed. The top's been done as well. So that's the piece. I'm just going to go and stage it up. Now, if you're like wanting to do this for a living, you have to be really careful. If you wax, when I stage this in a couple of minutes, my top won't be cured. You can sit something on it for a couple of minutes for a photograph, but you must remove it again. You can't walk away and go, right, okay, I've finished my piece. What will happen is it will dry with rings on it. Ask me how I know that one. So always take whatever you're doing. If you're in a hurry and you've got stuff to do, take everything back off it. It's okay for a couple of minutes, but not any more than that. So that's been this piece today. So I'll just get on and we'll get it. I'm just gonna stage it in the house again like I did last week. It worked quite well. So see what I can get for a bit of staging for it. Lastly, this drawer needs a little bit of conditioning, so I'm just using Big Mama's butter. Oh, it's quite a lumpy piece of wax. And all I'm doing is I am just conditioning the pine inside of here. I'll just work from that big lump. It makes your furniture smell nice, Big Mama's butter, but it'll condition your wood. But it's no good to I wouldn't ever recommend it as a I wouldn't use this as your furniture clear wax. Big Mama's butter for me is more of a conditioner. It's scented. I know that it's not good if you use it with transfers, or so I've heard. I haven't done it myself, but that's what I've heard. So I'm just going to get on and I'm going to condition the inside my door, make it all smell sweet, and then we'll be doing the staging. I've got a big lump here. Okay, so what did we do? We made our own stamps using lino, sheets of lino. What to remember, the rough side is the bottom, the soft side is the bit that you cut. Little lino tools come with a lot of little ends that you can fit in the end, and you can carve yourself whatever you want. You can get up in the morning, it gives you the freedom to go, today I'm going to make myself a snowman. You know, you can just decide what stamps you want to make. And I think that's the thing about this, it's really freeing to be able to do what you want. Larga, I hope that you can get lino and lino cutting tools in South Africa. And also for those that, I mean, it's time of the year, who's going out willy-nilly buying stamps and doing things like this? Whereas buy yourself a couple of sheets of lino and your little lino tools. You'll always have your little tools and you get something to play about with.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it, that the more you do it, the better you get.
It is. I mean, Jamie, our daughter Jamie, it's mind blowing. And you just hone your skill if that's your thing. You know, you can do some really. Mine's is. I haven't shown her my table yet. She might smirk. She might not. She may go. But you can see. I mean, even with me, who doesn't carve lino very often, you can get a shape that's pretty bang on. And it's just really freeing, and I think make your own. You can pull from them, you can mix and match them as well. I've done furniture before where I've used my own stamps and IOD stamps and anything else I've got. Just remember of all the things you can print onto the lino print once it's cut as well is so versatile. There's an old video of mine, it's very old, a couple of years old, where I did napkins for Christmas using lino. You can do table runners, you can do lampshades, you can do your walls, you can do art. What can't you not do with it? It's just the same as a stamp. So it's a good thing. And that way as well, if you have a specific area to fill, you can cut your stamp to fill that exact area, which you can't do with shop bought. So it's another good reason to get into it. That's really been it. It wasn't that difficult. I just painted the legs, gave it a little bit of chip, did a wee bit of blend around it, put a bit of crackle stamp on it, and that's it. So
easy peasy.
Yeah, we've already filmed this once back because I made a mistake. But Martin was very boastful in the last take
because about my Christmas sign.
Martin made this Christmas sign about 7 years ago. Martin and I had a competition one year where we said, let's have a competition to see who can make the best Christmas sign, right? It's the same at Easter. Martin takes it to a level that nobody has time.
Mine's definitely best.
They haven't got mine to see that yours is best. You're just saying yours is better.
Everybody thinks mine's best.
Well, anyway, this is Martin's Christmas shop sign.
Gingerbread fudge and sweeties.
That's all the things that Martin consumes in each hour of the day. So yeah, this is Martin's Christmas sign as well. I kind of staged it out to start Christmassy because it's getting to that stage.
Getting close.
It's getting close. What I'll do in a minute is once I've taken the photos.
Only 10 more sleeps. Or 9. Whatever it is now. In a minute, once I've taken the photos for the social media, I will restage it non-Christmassy so that I can sell it after Christmas. So that just be mindful if you're staging your furniture with Christmassy stuff to do 2 sets of photographs just so that you can change it out. Unless it sells instantly, well, that's great. You don't need the other set, but just in case, always good. Nothing really else to say about that apart from next week I'm going to show you my Christmas sign and I'm going to be boastful and then I will let you judge. We'll do it side by side.
He's obviously feeling quite competitive.
I'm feeling confident. It's right in my wheelhouse, that is.
Mine's is not, I mean, it's the tricky little parcels at the top. Yeah. Mine's is not so intricate. Mine's is just cute. Mine's is the gingerbread kitchen chef one with the little gingerbread men and the rolling pin and everything.
Okay.
Mine's is good.
Still feeling confident. Right, okay, well, we'll wrap this up now. So
Thank you to everybody.
I'll say thank you to everybody. Yeah, so if you have enjoyed this video, like it, share it, please share it. We're nearly at 7k, and that was our
Which
goal.
is mind-blowing.
In January, I've said this before, we hope to get to 4k by Christmas. We're at 7k, and we were like, wow, but we're just nearly there. So maybe it probably won't be on Sunday that we'll
So
get
if
there.
you've been thinking about subscribing, please
Christmas.
subscribe.
Yeah, please, if you've watched me a few times, you think, oh, well, I mean, she's only mildly irritating. I do like what she does. I'll subscribe, but I can live with that. We're making that go. Right, okay,
Oh.
too much nonsense.
Yeah.
That's it, really. I'm going to say goodbye, Matt. If you've got any
No,
more pearls
just-
of wisdom.
Once again, just thank you so much to everybody that follows us, subscribes to the channel, all the new channel members as well.
Channel
Just love you to
membership.
bits.
The channel
You're all
membership
amazing.
is going down so well. We've done all sorts of things, showed all sorts of things. I've done little craft projects. I am currently making a Das clay tile top. I feel like I should just whip it out just to
And
show you.
we're all going to see the Christmas lights in Edinburgh on Monday.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
taking everybody to the Christmas lights on Monday in Edinburgh. So the channel membership, and for those that have given us a super thanks, Martin and I were really very confused at the beginning. We couldn't understand why people were giving us money. We didn't really know what it was. Turns out we can't turn it off, but people are being so generous and giving us money, and we just like to say, please, you know, we absolutely think that's so kind, but don't. That's,
you don't need to. No,
you know,
we're more than happy to do what we
yeah,
do.
it's our
We love
job.
what we do. Yeah.
But that is so super.
But it is really appreciated.
It's so kind.
And every little bit
All
helps,
the
you know.
gifts that people send me, I get sent things all of the time, and people are just so, their generosity is just, it's mind
So
blowing.
kind. Yeah.
So kind.
So kind and thoughtful. It really
It is. I'm always getting, I mean, Martin calls it my fan mail.
Every once in a while, a little package arrives. I'm like, oh, more fan mail for you, Lel. and it's full of really lovely goodies,
things.
you know.
And when I look at the things as well, I think every time people send me something, I think it's as if they know me, actually physically have met me in real life, because it's just so correct. It's just such a lovely thing to receive. Anyway, we will get off. I'm going to say goodbye now.
7 minutes of saying goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're back.
It was all too much for me. I had to go get my Christmas sign. This is my Christmas sign. This is the one I made.
Yes.
Versus this one. I think we can see his sign is clearly better.
Yes, we can.
I'm going now.
Bye-bye.